What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the Tell Me More podcast presented by Major League Success. And I have the one and only Nathan White, team leader of the collective at NextHome Experience. Nathan, thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to join the podcast.
Thanks for having me. You can tell I dressed for the occasion. So.
Hey, that's all right. That's all right. We're just here having fun and talking real estate and how you kind of got into it. But so let's just dive right in.
Yeah,
Um,
go
you
for
know,
it.
the whole goal of the Tell Me More podcast is to share your journey, right? Your story, and have other people, if there's another agent that's been able to, connect with you on some level in your journey to the business, and they see a path to success. And that's what it's all about, right? And when I bring other real estate professionals on here, I always like to start from the very beginning. What was life like growing up? Because what I found is typically, as I hear people's stories, there's a lot of, influences or things that happened early on in one's career, or career meaning, growing up or college, or something that's happened that has impacted, how they go about doing real estate, or some way that they're, it's affecting their business. So what was life like growing up?
Life was busy. I'm a son of a builder, and
Oh,
so I grew up on a job site. I grew up in real estate sales, so to speak. Right. My father was a builder, mom was a banker, but I mean, from the earliest ages I can remember, I was picking up 16 or 10 penny nails on a job site, carrying decking, the whole 9 yards. So that was growing up. I mean, I literally grew up in this industry, and then I ran away.
I was just gonna say I've had multiple people on here that have had family, in the industry one way or the other, and they typically are always like, "Yeah, I'm not getting in, not getting in." So, high school years, did you do sports? Were you an entrepreneur, or were you just kind of like, on the job sites, just helping
On
your
the
dad
I mean, well, I was a class clown. I did some sports, but I preferred dirt bikes over sports. I didn't like getting hit, and I wasn't good at hitting balls, so I
out?
had to do something. I could race dirt bikes, and I could have fun on those things. But yeah, I mean, every one of my summers, spring break, they were spent on job sites. And my father actually suggested when I was 18, trying to figure out that life thing at 18, which to me again is a ludicrous thing to try to do at 18. But he's like, you should build houses with me and sell houses. And I was like, no, that's garbage work. I'm not doing that. I can do better. And decided that the logical thing to do was join the military. Don't
Okay.
ask me why. It was more of a rebellion than it was more to prove a point that I knew more than my parents at 18, which of course we all know that, at least I know now, that I didn't know more than them. So, but I didn't want to be affiliated with building or sales. Just,
Sure.
I didn't see it as a life for me. Well, here we are. So
So you decide to go the military route, do that.
did did the military route. It was great. I think a lot of what I learned in the military transfers into real estate. Why SOP, processes, orders, not coloring outside the lines but staying within them. I tell people, that's what I like about, the military, or like even scuba diving is a very big passion of mine. If you stay within the lines, you're good. It's when you color outside the lines that you're going to get burnt, sued, or in scuba diving, possibly death, or, I was in the military, I was a rigger, packed parachutes. If you did it the right way, you're going to land on the ground safely. You did
Yeah.
it the wrong way, you may die. But I really think it's helped me a lot down, in this path, or this chosen path I'm on now. I didn't realize it at the time, but absolutely do now.
Sure, sure. And how long were you in for?
6x4 is what they called it, total of 10. Got out of the military, decided to, again, think I knew it all. Went and had probably too much fun at that age, and ended up in places that most people don't want. We could get in the whole thing, but at one point I was homeless, and getting my meals daily from the Safeway dumpster out back at about 9 p.m. is when I'd catch them throwing things out. So,
Man,
life took a curved turn. But again, I knew more than everybody, and of course, I didn't know anything. So Ended up making my way to Ohio. I always laugh, say I violated a man rule and followed a woman. But she ended up having my daughter, and my daughter was here, and I stayed here. And I spent a lot of years in the restaurant industry. It's what I knew extremely well. And uh, Restaurants is what I did for a very long time after that, and then ended up in the RE game. So
What made you kind of get into the real estate? I mean, obviously, you had the military experience, and I'm sure, getting out, complete culture shock, right? As far as, what do I do? What can I do, outside of your comfort zone? Because, I mean, you lived a certain way for 10 years,
right.
got in doing some restaurant stuff. And I mean, what ultimately led you to real estate though?
A couple of things. One, if I was going to work 80 hours a week, I was going to do it for myself. I wasn't going to make money for other people. I was going to make it for me. And I had that thought. I just didn't know what it was at the time. And then we had some regulars. I used to run Cooper's Hawk over at Easton. We
Yeah.
had some regulars that came in, and she knows who she is, but she would always say, "Hey, you'd be great at sales. You'd be great at sales. You'd be great at real estate." She says, "How do you know so much about houses to begin with?" And I said, my dad built houses. And I used to hear them complain about, "Oh, I had to do an open house today." And I'm like, "How long was it from?" They're like, 12 to 2. There's my Saturday. And I'm like, I was thinking, I got here at 5 a.m. in the morning. I'm going to leave at 9 p.m. And I actually had mentioned it to them. I said, maybe I should do the real estate. They're like, well, your weekends are just wasted. I'm like, no, they're not. Like, you have no idea, because that's all you know. I knew
Right.
that, anybody that's worked in a high functioning, high volume restaurant, I mean, 5 a.m. to 8 p.m. 9 p.m. was a normal day. I mean, that was my life. And I knew that my marriage could not sustain it. It's just unhealthy. I wasn't going to see my family. I wasn't going to spend time with my kids. And so I needed to do something different. The only other thing I knew in restaurants was building and some stuff about houses. I didn't know a lot, but I knew some stuff, right?
Sure.
And I'd always been told, that I could sell Tabasco to a man in the desert. So I was at a graduation party of a friend of mine, and Sue and Chip Parrish were there, and we got to chatting. And they were like, "You really should do this." And I asked them what it entailed, and they told me. That was a Sunday. And on Thursday that same week, I called Chip and said, "What do I need to do?" He said, "Well, blah, blah, blah." I said, "All right, well, what do you need? How do I get this?" And he said, "Why are you in a hurry?" I said, "Well, I quit my job today." He said, "You did what?" I said, "I quit. I'm in." He said, "Okay, here we go." And that's where it began.
So where did you pick up, you said people always said you could sell Tabasco sauce
A man in the desert.
to the man in the desert. Where do you think you got that skill from? I mean,
A guy
was it,
named George White, my grandfather.
yeah,
It was his gift. I think part of it, though, I think believe in what we do now. Um, my restaurant background plays a large portion into that, and I'm thankful for that, because I really believe we don't sell anything to anybody. We
yeah,
provide logistics, we provide hospitality, we provide a service. Well, restaurant is nothing but service based, and if you can read people, you can understand people, whether you're bartender, waiter, manager, whatever, you're going to be very successful at it. I did well in the restaurant industry, don't get me wrong. I mean,
right,
it was great. I just didn't want to work 80 hours a week for the rest of my life.
yeah,
And so I think a lot of that translates into what we do now. It's about listening, it's about understanding what people want, what they are looking for, and if not, helping them identify what it is they're looking for. And I know a lot of agents that are highly successful. Felicia Oldrive, who is here, she comes from a restaurant background.
yeah.
Eric Alexander on my team, restaurant background. Adam, restaurant background. I mean, we could probably run through a list of a lot of people that all have a hospitality background.
Oh yeah. I mean, we have, I think I counted it up, seven people, 7 members of our team were, some spot of the restaurant industry, whether it's, bartender, server, whatever,
Right.
managers. Yeah. I mean, like you said, it's a service, right? Buying and selling real estate, we always tell our agents, like, buying and selling real estate, it's a process. It's not an event.
Right.
It's not like you have to be, ready to rock and roll tomorrow if someone calls you up today. Now there's some cases where
Yeah.
like someone's going to make a quick decision, but for the most part, there's a process that goes into it. It's not like you're selling a cell phone where they leave the store and they're going to go somewhere else and get it from somewhere else, right? And
Right.
if you can provide, like you said, the service and the roadmap. I like to say, hey, my job's to set you up on a path to success. So that way, when you find that property, the property's going to sell itself. When you find that property, then we're able to execute.
Right. Yeah.
And that's my job.
Right. And I would agree with you. Again, to me, it's service, service, service. And if you can bring that, and let's be honest, most realtors of the past haven't provided service.
Yeah.
They've provided a function, right? But they haven't really went beyond that and haven't serviced the client and taken care of them. And I was quick to go, man, the bar was pretty low, really, right? And the other side of real estate was, what can I excel at? What's going to cost me the least amount of money to get into, but can translate into greater wealth, so to speak. And real estate was that path for me. And I knew if I could learn it and then provide the service on top of it, then I would do well. And I use the restaurant analogies all the time. We've all been to the restaurant where the food's mediocre, subpar, but John, that waiter who was just on it, identifying things, able to read the guests, see that your kids are screaming, get them to quiet down. Hey, I got you. I know it's crazy, or it's your birthday, got you dessert. In constant touches and making you feel good.
Yeah.
You're gonna go back over and over and over. But
Yeah.
if you have great food and horrible service, the likelihood of you going back diminishes exponentially.
100%. 100%. We were out in Las Vegas, I guess 2 years ago, maybe, or maybe it was last year. And we went to some Italian restaurant. My wife will talk about this all the time. We were stuffed, the waitress comes up and says, hey, do you guys want dessert? We're like, oh, no, we can't eat anymore. He ends up bringing out a cannoli for her, right? Just something simple like that, where like we and I'm sure if we go back to Vegas, which we probably will, we'll probably be hitting up that spot because of that experience and because of that service.
Yeah. I use Mitchell's Ocean Prime a lot. They have a waiter there named Ed McLaughlin, and every time we go in, hey, last time you were here, you had this. You want to try this time? Last time you enjoyed that? You're like, boom, like, and it's simple things, right? He takes notes, they keep notes, blah, blah, blah. But it's just that little bit of extra effort that makes you go back because you know what you're going to get. There's that expectation, and they hit it out of the park every time. So
that's awesome.
No different in real estate, right? I mean, we've all had failures. I've looked back and seen somebody else do something, and I just shake my head, and I want to be mad at the client, and there's nobody to be mad at but myself.
But ourselves, yeah, you're exactly right. So you decide to just quit your job, and dive into real estate, and
had to figure out a financial path, right? I mean, it's quit. Well, then what am I going to do to live? And we all know real estate, it's not like you're going to get a check next week. So
right.
I made the decision. I actually had to go and beg for a job. I went to an interview dressed, in normal restaurant manager attire. And I went to interview at Pies and Pints at Easton. And the manager there was like, yeah, you're overqualified. And I was like, I understand that, but I literally just want to bartend. I mean, you're serving beer. You don't even have liquor. I mean, I can do this, right? And he's like, I don't know. And I said, well, and I actually made a deal with the guy. He finally, like 3 days before they were going to start this training, he said, I just worry that, you're going to kind of want to run the place. And I said, look, it's the last thing I want to do. I can build a business and build my clientele if you give me an opportunity. And he's sitting there thinking, I said, I'll make a deal with you. In 30 days, if I don't have clientele that come to see me and I've not built somewhat of a business, I will walk away quietly. And day 31, I walked up to him and said, hey, Tony. He said, I guess I can. He said, get the fuck out of my face. I know what you're going to say. He said, get behind the bar. I said, okay. And I bartended for Pies and Pints for 4 years. For a while. I mean, in fact, my last year that I was there, last 2 years I was there, I did over 50 transactions each year as a solo agent, but was still working 3 to 4 nights a week at the bar.
Yeah.
And people are like, why are you here? And I'm like, because I like it. I actually loved it. I had a great ownership, the guy who owned it, a great management team, and I was comfortable. But I built my book of business out of that restaurant too.
Yeah, I bet.
I mean, people used to joke, hey, I'll come have a beer and I'll have a beer and see you at the office. And that's what it was.
100%, 100%. So when you got into real estate and you made that decision, I'm always curious, did you have supporters? Did you have doubters? I mean, because again, you went from, an established career at that point, to a certain lifestyle, right? And responsibilities, right? Family responsibilities and all those things to, hey, I'm going to do a 180. I'm going to get into a commission-based business. I mean, obviously you went and got another job to kind of help, pay some bills and things
I
like
did.
that.
I had a kid on the way as well at this time.
Yeah. So like, supporters, doubters, kind of where were you at?
Um, I had some doubters. I actually had somebody that I will not say, but told me it was the worst idea I could ever have. And I said, well, it's sink or swim. I had, my father who was like, I told you. And I'm like, I don't want to hear the I told you so, but he did. But my biggest supporter was my wife. I tell anybody that gets in the industry now, if you don't have the support of your partner or your spouse or whatever that may be, then you're doomed. I really believe it.
Yeah.
But my wife believed in me, and supported me. Good days, bad days, hard days, super long days. Um, but it was still better than the restaurants too. even
Sure.
even so, just because I wasn't gone 14, 15 hours a day.
Sure.
But I can tell you without a doubt, without a shadow of a doubt, I wouldn't be sitting here having this conversation if it wasn't the support of her and my family to say, I believe in you. My wife, she just knows when I put my mind and my head to it, I'm kind of the bull in the china shop. Get out of my way. I'm going to get there. But I had plenty of doubters.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a combination of both that gets you through it, right? Some people thrive on the I'm going to show you, and some people just need that loving comfort of, hey, you got this, you can do it, we believe in you.
I've spent a large part of my life for my own sense of self. I don't want to say to others, but I've found this through also a lot of therapy. I spent a lot of time proving others wrong because I was told so much from an early age that I couldn't do something. Or like I'll use the example of when I went in the military. We had a disciplinary director that I frequented a lot. um, when he found out I was going into the military, going airborne, and doing what I'm doing, he said, "I wish you all the best, but you most likely won't succeed."
Hmm.
And stuff like that's always driven me. I think even since a young age, even to this day, I don't call myself successful. In fact, somebody the other day said, "Man, you need to give yourself some grace. You do pretty well." Um, I've spent a lot of my life feeling like I had to prove my worth to
Yeah.
others. But I've also now gotten to a point in my life at 48, almost 49 years old. I don't need to prove shit to anybody.
No, no, I mean, you define this, your own
Yeah.
definition of success, right?
Right. Yep.
Your version's different than mine. It's different than the next person beside us. And that's one of the things that I tell, our agents all the time. It's like, hey, you don't have to go out and sell 50 houses a year. If you want to sell 20, that's cool. If that's what you want to do. If you want to sell 5, that's cool too. What's your version of success? For me, it's, it comes back to what's that lifestyle that you want to live. Cause I feel like most people, will do whatever it takes to get to a certain lifestyle that they want to live, not a transaction count or a volume number or whatever. It's most people are in that comfort zone of what's that lifestyle that they're trying to obtain.
I would agree with you, and I've luckily found that spot. I worked hard at it, and I think what people get lost in a lot of time is they see an end product, right? They'll see Jon Harp or Nathan White, and they go, "Man, I want to do what he did."
Yeah.
What they don't realize is there was starting A here. They see, Z,
Yeah.
right? They don't see anything in between. They don't realize the work, I mean, you got to remember, I got out of the restaurant industry to stay in it, but to learn another industry, there was plenty of days that I was going to the office when I started. I was a KW agent. I'd go to KW at 9 o'clock in the morning, and I'd get home from the bar at 11 o'clock at night, and that was Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Yeah.
So there was an immense amount of effort put into that, but most people don't see the journey to get there.
Yep. And that's what this is all about, is showing, being real, showing that journey, like the sacrifices that it typically takes, for someone define that success, it varies from person to person, but I mean, going from military to homeless to then, going to the restaurant industry, working the long hours, putting in that grind to then saying, hey, I'm going to switch, but then still say, okay, hey, I know I used to manage restaurants and run restaurants, but now I just want to work at the bar. Right.
Right.
And this is going to allow me then to free up more time to then, focus on this new career that I'm going after. People, like you said, they just see the end results. They don't see the whole journey and the
Yeah.
struggle to get there.
No, they just see the end product. And I had, we all have goals, but you got to have the habits. I tell, people, goals suck, habits win, and which I believe is true. I had my goals, but you got to have the habits. But I mean, I had check marks along the way. Like I, at some point, wanted to get to a spot where my wife wouldn't have to work. And I knew if I got there that I would probably slide back a little bit, but it would open up more windows for growth. And
Right.
so, all of those things happen and worked out, but a lot, and still a lot of work goes into it, but an immense amount of work went into A to Z.
Yeah. So when did you get licensed? What year?
2000, well, so my license was issued in 14. I actually didn't, well, I have a 14 license number. It didn't start until 15.
Okay.
Didn't really begin until middle of 15. Did not go full time until almost 19.
19. Okay.
So,
So dive into like those first couple years, struggles, successes. I know you were kind of bartending as well, building up that clientele. What
wow,
was that ride like?
it's horrible. It's absolutely atrocious. Because our industry has so many areas of opportunity to do better.
Yeah.
We can come back to that, but it's part of why I have my team the way I have it. It was a lot of rah bang bang, oh, I don't know, like, unicorns and fairies everywhere. All right, that's complete bullshit. All right. This industry could do much better if we could make some changes. I started on a team. I was on that team for a year. I saw zero leads ever, zero, not one that was even viable. Right. I learned through just showing up and going, I'm sticking with you today. I didn't have a choice. There wasn't, and I get the whole, lead a horse to water, but like nobody
Yeah.
was even leading me to the water. I was the horse finding the water.
Yeah.
And I finally got to a point where I had enough knowledge to be semi-dangerous, and potentially detrimental to myself or to a client. But I went out and said, look, if I'm not getting this, why am I paying it? So then I went out on my own, and then I went, all right, well, I'm still paying this company a lot of money. This makes no sense to me to pay $26,000 a year to this flag. So then I went to a small boutique brokerage. My broker was in Cincy, not even here. I was literally the only salesperson, and I white knuckled, you know, barehanded boxed my way through it and learned. And it was maybe the best thing that ever happened for me, because I didn't have, even though I had a broker, that was not a resource to me. So I
Right.
had to go and find the answer myself. Um, it wasn't like, oh, I could call John, I got this situation, blah, 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 which a lot of realtors do to their team leads, I feel like. And, I
Sure.
have a rule. If you call me with the question, I want three answers before you call me. 9 times out of 10, the call never happens because they actually think through it. But I
Right.
didn't, I had no resource. So I spent 4 years there, I think it was 3.5, 4. It was great, because I learned a lot. But again, I needed more services after that. And hence how I ended up here at NextHome, which was the last brokerage ever on my radar, which was funny. But I, I mean, I could sit here and tell you pitfall. I mean, there's so many things we could do better in this industry. Um, just from a teaching perspective, I think it's ludicrous that we will license somebody and turn them loose without
Yeah.
any experience other than taking a test. Like, it's mind boggling to me. Like,
Yeah.
we wonder why agents fail. Well, nobody's going to trust that new agent that's never done a thing, that's by themselves. That we're just setting them up for failure.
Yeah.
So the struggle was real. I mean, I remember sitting down in my office the first day. I was so excited. I had a desk, I had a computer, and I sat down and I went, shit, what the fuck do I do? I had no idea. I mean, literally, I'm
Yeah.
like, here, I've got a license, I've got this office, I've got all this, and I'm like, I have no idea what to do. Even when my first contract that I had to write, I was so excited driving home. It was down in Marion Village, and I still remember it to this day. I think everybody remembers their first one, right? And I got into the office at KW, and I was like, and I sat down at the computer and I went, wait, I have no idea what I'm doing. And luckily, Foddy, who's still over at KW, Sluman, I'm probably saying that wrong. Foddy's an awesome dude. But Foddy said, hey, brother, I got you. Let me help you. And still to this day, I'm eternally grateful to him, because had I not happened upon him in that office, I don't know if I'd have gotten it done.
Yeah.
But um, I now, in the position that I'm in, I'm trying to help facilitate some of those changes and stuff. Because it's like, having a team's like being a parent, right? We don't want our children to fail. We want them to learn through our failures. And I'm hoping that the ones that trust me, that literally trust me with their life, so to speak,
Yep.
and their livelihood, that I can teach them and give them what wasn't given to me.
That's one of my passions. I got lucky. I've been with my mentor, my team lead, since day one of my real estate career. And where you didn't necessarily have someone showing you the path and the way, I had that from day one. So I didn't really have some of those like super down, like, oh man, I don't know what I'm doing. And I'm right there with you. I think, the industry doesn't have to be the way it is. It doesn't have to be the way that, moving forward. And, I'm there with you as far as I believe, you know, franchises don't fail, right? A small percentage do, but mom and pops fail all the time.
Right. Yeah.
And that's how I look at real estate agents, right? You can be a mom and pop, go out on your own, but the vast majority of you are going to fail. The
Yeah.
people like yourselves that are determined to figure it out and find a way and be hungry enough, and not just be hungry enough, but be willing to take the risks and the sacrifices and all of those things in between to make it work, are going to survive. And for me, it's every brokerage is this way. We all offer group training. We all offer all that stuff. But I think the difference is if we got to the point where a new licensed person has to actually be an apprentice, right? Almost like back in the day when if you want to become a blacksmith, a shoemaker, whatever it was, guess what? You were learning for a year, before you got cut loose, or, a year and a half or 2 years.
Right.
And I think that's the way that the real estate industry should be going.
I would agree.
And you have some of that with like mentorships, right, within the brokerages and things like that. But even that's not it's not really a true way to do it, in my opinion. So I love that. We think the same way when it comes to, our newer agents. And from here's the funny part, right? You got one way, you came from one experience, and I came from the complete opposite experience, right? And how can we bridge those gaps to make sure that, everyone's on that path to success once they do get their license?
Right.
So,
Yeah. There's so much that could be done. I feel like there's a lot of us, that have similar ideas, that I think we are starting to see some of those changes in our industry, which is good. Famous last words in our industry is what? Oh, we've always done it that way.
yeah,
And if somebody says that to me again, I might choke somebody out. It doesn't mean it has to be done that way always. In fact, our hashtag, our motto is do different.
yeah.
Because we can do different, we can do better. So anyway.
No, and I'm sure I'm sure you lean on a ton of your past experience in the service industry and the restaurant industry, to make some of those changes and some of those tweaks. So, so lead me up to, your bartending, doing real estate, at the same time. You mentioned you did back-to-back years of like 50 transactions while still bartending. What made you then decide to dive in full time into real estate?
The death of my son. So to be blunt, my wife and I lost a child. It's been 5 years ago now. And in those experiences, you learn a few things. One, you hear it often said, but Rich Roll is a guy that I follow. That's a great author, podcaster, everything. But he said, you don't get a do-over in this life, which I agree. We don't. You find your priorities change. when you lose a child, I remember my wife going, we also had our son Beckett, who was 3 at the time. And she said, I don't want to miss more things.
Mm.
And so we said, all right, how do we do this? And I said, the best way for us to do this is if you quit your job and I can focus more on real estate and try to make up that difference, and I'll use the old adage that we hear all the time from people trying to pitch us to leave. If I could teach you to do one more transaction or two, but that's kind of where my mind was. All right, I have to do this many more transactions to make up for your loss of income. And so, can I do it? Yeah, but it was kind of that same approach again. All right, sink or swim. All right. So my wife said, all right, I'm going to put my notice in. This is going to free up time for you to work more on real estate. And really kind of, it's a partnership, right? I mean, that's why I say having that support of your wife or your partner is huge. And that's what catapulted me to go, all right, let's go full time. I wanted to be able to give my wife something that she wanted. Literally was zero to do with me or my ego. But I understood it. And then I also understood that life is precious. You got no idea. And at any moment that can be taken away. So, as much as I like working or I wanted to make more money or whatever, you know what? I don't care. I wanted to have experiences. I wanted to give my wife, my other 2 children, the things that I wasn't giving them. And then literally that's the way I looked at it. I'm not giving you enough of me. I can give you money, I can give you gifts, but that never replaces you and I.
Right.
And so I just wanted to be able to give more of me, and it worked out. And like I said, you look at your priorities and where you are and what's important to you in those times. And that was a shitty one. So
yeah, I mean, sorry to hear the story, of that. And it's one of those things, like you said, you got one shot at this. And that's why I always say, like, what's that lifestyle, right? Like, the big house is nice, the nice cars are nice, and all of those things are nice, but that doesn't mean that has to be what you're chasing after. I'm like you, for me, it's experiences. For me, like, I was cool not having the nice car, not having the big house, but I wanted 6 vacations a year, right?
Yep.
Like, I wanted, I grew up being able to go camping and see a lot of the United States. And that's what I enjoy doing. And
Right.
here's the thing for me, experiences is, hey, Anna's my wife. Hey, Anna, you want to go to dinner tonight, right? Or, hey, you want to go grab a drink tonight, or what? Like, it's small experiences, and then it's obviously the big experiences.
Yeah, right. Yeah. No,
And I didn't want to be house poor, and I didn't want to be car poor, And,
yep. That was all goals of mine.
And here's the other thing. I didn't want to be stuck to having to work Monday through Sunday, 9 to 9 with clients either,
Right.
Because you tell me that you're working with, closing 50, 60, 70 houses a year by yourself. Unless half of those are sellers, I mean, you're going to be gone 9 to 9 Monday through Sunday.
And it was about 50-50.
Yeah.
I will say, and I argue with a lot of people, that I believe that a lot of people, I want to say realtors, don't manage your time wisely. And I don't know. We could get on a whole rant about that for me, because you always hear, like, and it wasn't long ago, somebody, I said, oh, how's it going? I'm so swamped. I said, oh, what you got going on? They're like, I got 3 deals. And I was like, and what else? They're like, 3. And I was like, you're swamped. You got literally 3 pending transactions. And so, I always, I tell my guys, hey, don't be busy being busy. And a lot of agents are busy being busy.
Yeah.
We don't utilize our time wisely. I'm a miracle morning guy. I believe if you lose an hour in the day, you're never going to get it back. I'd like to get in the office early. Why? Because come 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, I'm peace out. I'm out for the day. I want to go see my family. Right. That's why I do what I do. So,
yeah.
Sorry, I got off sideways there.
No, I think that's perfect. I think it's perfect because I talk to agents all the time. I love when I see comments of like, yeah, I work 10 hours, 12 hours a day. I'm like, okay, well, how much is it BSing in the office? How much is it going to lunch for an hour and a half? How much is it, this, that, spending time on things that, aren't necessarily income producing activities. And I'm going to guess you probably learned that skill in the military, where you didn't have necessarily time to waste, or people told you exactly what to do.
No, I mean, yes. I think once I got in it and I saw what it gave me, hey, I can get home and my kid gets off the bus, or, tonight I got, baseball practice here in a little while, but like, I just didn't want to be that agent who's always available. I think that's bullshit. And I don't care if somebody disagrees. I think then you have shitty priorities if that's the way you are. And the reason I use that is I was at lunch with the mentor once, and two of us agents eating, and the other agent's phone rang. He looked at it. He said, "Oh, it's just my wife," and he kept talking. A couple minutes later, he's like, "Oh, it's just my wife again. I'll get her after lunch." Puts his phone down. About 5 more minutes later, and he's like, "Oh, hey guys, I'll be right back." He goes, takes a call. 10 minutes later, comes back. Says, "Yeah, it's a client of mine having some issues." My mentor looked over and said, "Hey, got your priorities fucked up." And the guy said, "What do you mean?" He said, "You ignored 2 calls from your wife, but you got up from this table and took a client call." He said, "Your priorities are fucked up." And it was an aha moment for me. I mean, it really was. I was like mind blown. And I was like, okay, that makes total sense to me. And again, it's about priorities.
Yeah.
My clients are a priority, but they don't rise above my family.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's one of the things, a priority. And I think that's one of the things most of us forget about is the flexibility that our job provides us. Most people, from what I've seen getting into the industry, they usually, get in because they want to make more money, or they want some more freedom, some time freedom, or they want flexibility within their schedule. And the flexibility, the one is the one that I see a lot of us, myself included, that we forget about. It's always like, oh, we got to help the next client. We got to help we got to do the next show. We got to do all this. And, the money comes, and then we typically lose freedom, right? If we're so, focused on that. Or if you start building a team, that's one way you can get both, right? Or all three. But yeah, that flexibility piece, like if you literally would just work 2 hours a day of prospecting and touching base with your sphere and past clients and all of those things, you can make a ton of money in this business, and you don't have to work 10 hours a day at the office.
No, you don't. I mean, I used yesterday, we had a team meeting. I did it off site. So I said, "Why are you doing it off site?" I said, "Because I can in 4 hours do what I can do in 15 at the office." Why? No interruption, nobody knocking on the door, none of that. It's just solely focused work. No meetings, no, "Hey, what'd you do this weekend, John?" or any of that. It's just boom. And 4 hours, we got so much accomplished yesterday. I mean, again, utilization of time for people, they don't do it well.
Yeah. So when did you decide to start your own team?
Well, it's come on reiteration number 2. I tried, failed miserably the first time. Again, you don't know what you don't know, and said, "Oh, this is stupid and for the birds," and had no intention of ever doing one again. And then Eric Alexander, who's on my team, called me one day and said, "Hey, I'm getting out of the restaurant business." And he said, "I want to come work with you." And I said, "Nope, that's a horrible idea." He said, "Well, I want to work with you. You sold me my house. I want to do this with you." And I said, "I will only do that on one condition. You need to go and talk to other people." He said, "I'll go and talk to as many people as you want me to in the real estate industry, but I want it to be you." And I was like, Jesus Christ, this guy won't leave me alone. So he did what I asked, and that's where it started from there. And I don't. I'm not looking for people, but I'm always looking, if that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
And that's how we built it. And it's been fun. I know now some of the things I didn't know then. My broker, David, our owner as well, Vadim, have been a big part of helping me work through some of these things, which has been great. But I had a little bit better idea of what to do the second time around, because again, like being a real estate agent, when you get to real estate, you don't know anything. You knew enough to pass the test, but you don't know anything about real estate. Well, I didn't know anything about starting a team the first time. And then that's why I said, "Oh, this is a bad idea." Right. And then I went back and said, "All right, let's do it again. But let's look at what the failures were." Right. I mean, real estate is like baseball. Why? It's failing. Baseball is failing. That's how you learn. Real estate's kind of the same to me. You learn through failures. Right. And so it's been way more enjoyable, way more rewarding this time around.
Awesome. That's awesome. So I want to kind of fast forward, because I want to be respectful of your time.
Yeah.
I want to kind of fast forward to kind of some future, looking at the future of where you want to get to. What's one thing that you're looking to accomplish over the next 12 months? Personal, business, team.
I Nothing crazy. Maybe add a new team member. I'd honestly like some more diversity, another female or some better ethnic background. Some more diversity would be great. Otherwise, just to continue to develop the people that are here, that are with me now, that entrust me now. I worry about going too fast because I don't want to take my time away from them, and not give them the attention that they deserve. So I just keeping on that personally. I'd like to get back in shape. I faced a lot of health challenges in the year and a half. The team was a blessing because some people know, but I was hospitalized with COVID, ICU, major surgeries, all kind of jazz in the last year and a half. So the team was highly important to my success. But yeah, to develop them, to get my health back to normal. I'm working on my dive master certification. So for me, that's important because that's part of the retirement plan and future goals is to move to Florida, sell some houses, teach a lot of scuba diving, and spend it underwater where people can't bother you.
Don't worry about the sharks.
To continue to serve others. Right. Sharks don't want to bother you. And to continue to serve others. I have, we mentioned earlier in the podcast, my son's death. Fatheads Brewery out of Cleveland actually reached out to me and wanted to do a fundraiser for us. We passed on it and said, let's start a fund that actually will help others. We were fortunately, because of real estate, in a financial spot that we didn't need the money. So we started a fund called Reagan's Fund. And Fatheads continues to make a beer every year called Reagan's Comet, named in his honor. And Matt the Millers, some other restaurants, Pies and Pints, carry the beer. And we use those proceeds to help families in high-risk obstetrics that don't have the financial resources. So doing stuff like that to give back to me is a large focus because so much was given to me to get to where I'm at that I would not be here without opportunities created by others and their generosity. And so it's my part now to be able to give back. It's also a way to shine a positive light on something that was a very dark time of me and my wife and family's lives. So otherwise, I want to spend time with my family. I want to watch my kids grow. I want to take lots of trips. I want to keep diving and just be me. Don't need to be anything different.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. What's a big 5-year accomplishment that you're looking to do?
I would like
in 5 years.
I would like to see. We challenged ourselves this year for 150 transactions. We're gonna be close, but 5-year plan again is to keep moving forward. My 5-year plan is to work towards retirement. I mean, it is to, we've paid off all our debts. Is to keep socking away money, to learn other skills. But I don't have any, to be honest, some grand, like, this is what I've got to do in 5 years. I've got my 1, my 3, all those things are tracking, and they're moving along. The biggest one probably on my list in 5 years is to get my license here in Florida. Just because I know enough people now and go enough that I can slowly start to build a book of business and bounce back and forth.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Nathan, so I always like to end with this one question. If you could give the audience any piece of advice that you wish you had when you either got into the business or even now, maybe they want to build a team or whatever, what would be that piece of advice?
Well, first one is motivation sucks, habits win. You can have all the motivation in the world, but if you don't have the habits to create that, you will not be successful. You have to have good habits. The second part, at least for me, was don't let people tell you that you can't. And don't rely on hope either, And what I mean by that, I was just at our conference, Nick Vlasidis and I were talking, and a gentleman came up and said, man, you guys were great. I love hearing you talk, Nick. Nathan, you did awesome. You've got so much knowledge. He said, I hope to do as well as you one day. And I looked at him and said, that'll never happen. And the expression on his face, the color kind of dripped away. And I see him thinking, God, what an asshole. And I said, it'll never happen if you hope. I said, if I can do what I've done, this average Joe guy here, if I can do and achieve what I've achieved, then you certainly can. Don't hope to do it, go and do it. And I think enough people don't give themselves the credit. Don't hope, go and do, and stick with it. This industry is not an instant gratification industry. If you're looking for instant gratification and thinking you're going to come out making six figures right out the rip, boom, 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 then I will tell you now, don't do it. Can you? Yes. And the ways you can do that is, one, don't go be solo. Go find a team. Go find support. Find a broker. Find a team lead that will support you, that won't give you fluff, but will actually provide you something. If you're going to give them a split, which that's what most all do, right? Then get value for that money. But now you're getting your education. You're paying for it, but damn well make sure you're paying it to the right place, right? Because there's a lot of brokerages or teams that don't provide that, right? So interview multiple teams, interview multiple brokerages, and as you interview, create longer list of questions, because you think you know everything, and it all sounds like, again, unicorns and fairies and daisies out there. It's not. It can be great, but be realistic in your expectations. And I feel like a lot of times that's what I'm doing with newer agents, is managing that expectation.
Yeah.
My team all the time, I used my first year, I think I did 3 houses. And they're like, oh my God, it's horrible. I'm like, look, you sold 14 this year and we're not even through the year and you're a new agent.
Yeah.
Calm down. Again, I talked earlier about giving myself grace. Same thing to a new agent. Give yourself some grace. Realize that this is a process. So
yeah,
that's what I would say.
I love it. Thanks so much for coming on. Those that are watching, you can see Nathan's phone number and website, at the bottom of the screen. Nathan, if someone, resonated with your story, a real estate agent that wants to connect, or, someone that's looking to buy or sell here in our market, what's the best way for them to reach out to you?
You can do it on the phone number there, scrolling the website. You can hit me up on Facebook. I'm nwhite1024 on Instagram. You can hit me up on Facebook. Shoot me a DM. Just tell me who you are. I am a little bit particular about just random people who request me. Give me some background, but you can do any of those forms. I don't hide behind anything. You want to come and chat? Let's have a chat. I don't, I tell people, look, I might not be the guy for you, but I'll point you to the guy that may be.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Nathan, thank you so much for your time today, and for, just coming on, sharing your story, and, being real. And, like I said, the whole goal of Tell Me More is just to connect and show other people that there's a path to finding success in this business.
There is, no doubt.
Thanks so much.
Great. Y'all have a great day.